Hey, hi everybody. I'm Kathleen Dent with Inspired Classroom. Hi, Greg. Here
Hey.
we are. Here we are again with Innovative Practices. This is Greg Zorbas, our amazing educational expert and guru. So, Greg, how's it going in Bend, Oregon?
You know, it's cold. I've been talking to my colleagues and talking to my buddy up there in Alaska, a couple of them, and telling them how they sent all their cold air down here and into our area in the Northwest here. And it's like, dang, it's like winter again. It's like it was a 9 below, I think, when I went to the workout this morning.
Oh, yes, it is cold here too.
Yeah.
By the way, Inspired Classroom is located in Missoula, but we serve students in classes all over the United States and even other countries. So we're excited to be here today. Greg, we're going to talk about, I know, a favorite topic of yours, which is doing virtual exchanges, class to class, getting kids together, breaking open those classroom walls and letting kids meet other folks and talk to each other. And so tell us a little bit about why this is such a fun and important topic for you.
Well, you know, Kathleen, like we were talking about a little bit ago, some of the topics and some of the things we've talked about kind of lead right into this and lead up to this and overlap a little bit with this. But the bottom line is we have the ability to get kids working with kids anywhere in the world, and they can collaborate in real time. Just like when we talked about in my classroom years ago, as we were developing this program, the kids didn't even want to watch videos anymore. They wanted to interact with whoever the guest speaker was. Well, now we can do that with student to student collaboration. And that's one of the things that one of my colleagues and I, Rob Sparks up there in Alaska, and I really specialized in, was getting kids collaborating and working with other kids. And you know, we're doing a great thing right now with Inspired Classroom and some people in Ireland. So it's really cool to set these things up.
Well, and I know you and I talk about a lot at Inspired Classroom, because Inspired Classroom has been doing distance learning for a long time, and you have too. But we've talked a lot about coming out of this COVID time period, the pandemic time period, and really using what we've learned during this time to really get excited about the power of this technology and opening up your classrooms. And people are so much more comfortable with that now. And the technology has just changed by leaps and bounds too, which helps. And so I think that's why we're so excited about spurring teachers on and encouraging them not to just stop remote learning, stop virtual learning, but really use what you've learned during the pandemic to open up your classroom. So that's what we're going to talk about today, virtual exchanges. So Greg, can you give maybe an example of a virtual exchange that you did when you were in the classroom that was really fun?
Yeah, but before I do that, I just want to emphasize one of the things you said, and that's coming out of this pandemic. Any of you teachers that are listening to this, I really hope you understand we're talking about things that were being done long before the pandemic. And for those of you that were forced into using this technology in a way that maybe that, you know, whether you wanted to or not, what we're talking about is really enhancing. You have the ability to really enhance what you're doing. And that's what we are really trying to promote here. So I just wanted to emphasize that, Kathleen, because I think it's important, because there's a lot of teachers out there who really were forced into doing something that they weren't really, whether they were ready or not. But and we just want you to know that you don't have to do it. This is something you can do because it could be really exciting and beneficial and real for your classroom.
And before you get into your tips and so forth and your story, Greg, I also want to say, you and I are educators. Everybody associated with Inspired Classroom are trained educators. And we want to just say whoop, whoop to all you guys, because it's been a tough couple of years. And as usual, teachers take it, go with it, and do amazing things. So good on you. So let's talk about virtual exchanges and share a story.
Yeah, so we had, of course, multiple virtual exchanges, but one of the ones that stands out to me most, that's actually, well, actually there's multiple, but I remember where we had our kids collaborating with some all girls school in Afghanistan, and we had our kids working on projects together. And as we came together to share some of the things that each group had learned during the work that they were doing, one of our students, and Rob really can attest to this, because it was one of his students actually in his classroom, who asked a question of the girls at this girls' school, and the question came up is, why were these girls even going to school? Because their lives were in danger. I mean, multiple times we've worked with these people in that part of the world, and these girls were in school, and this girl looked right into the camera, right at the student who asked the question, and just said, because if we don't do this, then nothing's going to change where we're at. And we really feel like it's that important that we connect with you guys, and we learn from you guys, and you guys learn from us, and hopefully things will change. And so of course, with things that are going on there, who knows how that's going to happen. But for several years, we had some really cool things going on there with that all girls school in Afghanistan.
I love those seeds that get planted with both sides, both of the classrooms of, oh my goodness, and you never know where those seeds are going to grow, even 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
Well,
right?
Talk about years. That actual story happened when the student on our side was a sophomore, and that story really came to light when that girl was a senior at graduation, when she was talking about things that happened during her high school career. That was one of the things that stood out to her the most.
Wow. As teachers, that's the pay. That's the why we do what we do, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's get into this a little bit. In all of your experience, we're going to offer 3 tips and 2 resources, and then challenge you to do something with virtual exchanges. So what are the top tips that you've come up with, Greg?
Well, our top tip is planning. Connecting with a teacher and get a time commitment schedule and build a framework for that, whatever's going to work for you and the teacher that you're collaborating with for your students, so that your students get the most benefit for you and the other teacher, what you guys think is going to be the best. You don't have to follow anybody else's plan. You can take from this and take from that, like we do as teachers. We take something that somebody else did that was really cool, and take this piece that somebody else did, and then we put it together and we use it to make it work for us. But really make sure that you really work to plan and connect and get those commitments from the people. So that would be number 1. Number 2 is prepping the students. Make sure the students understand what the expectations are. I mean, we do that as teachers all the time. We have classroom expectations. Well, when you have a virtual exchange, just make sure that your students understand what and how they're supposed to act and how they're supposed to engage and things like that. Work on good questions, listening skills, active listening, which, as we've talked about before in the previous weeks, we've got tips on our webpage for that. And then number 3 is let the kids have some fun, and let them turn it over to the kids and let them run the show. And really, this is truly one of the most important things that you build into a lesson plan when you're working on an exchange, is making sure that the kids have time to just be kids and let them connect with the other kids on the other side.
Right. I know, Greg, we're working on one right now with some students in Ireland and students in Montana. And one of the things, as we talked through it, you and I and Rob and Allie, to figure out a framework, was, what if the kids were just sitting together in the cafeteria, eating lunch? What kinds of stuff would they be talking about? What would that free flow of conversation be? And also, what are some of their hesitations going to be? Because, when you start to meet people from other cultures or other countries, sometimes you're a little hesitant to maybe ask a question or say something that might be misconstrued or whatever. And so prepping kids on how to ask good questions respectfully, I think, is really, really a good point. But it's also a life skill, because you're going to meet people from all over the world, whether it's in your workplace or, in your town, or if you travel. and getting to understand how to converse with people who may be in a different situation than you, I think is a really good skill to learn. So what resources do we have to share?
Well, we have a meet and greet form posted on the webpage that takes you through that initial meeting when you're going to connect with a different school, and it's all drawn out so that you can learn a little bit about each other and get to know each other a little bit, and then build into that time some of the time we're talking about where kids just get to be kids and ask questions of each other and stuff like that. And that's a part of the meet and greet form. And then on our webpage, we've also got a resource of meeting people from other cultures and what are some things that you should be aware of, and what are some things that you can do when you're in an exchange to lessen the opportunity, or to lessen, not the opportunity, but to lessen the chance that you might say something that might be taken the wrong way. And it's really important, because culturally we've dealt with some different groups where it's just not okay to ask some questions that we would typically ask here in America, in an American school.
Right.
You know? So,
Yeah.
so we've got some resources for that.
I think an example I saw of that was handled masterfully by Rob, who helps us with these things. We were doing an exchange with Ghana, Africa, and a native population in Juneau, Alaska, and then his kids on the Kenai Peninsula in Alaska also. And it was right around Thanksgiving. And so they had to do some education in all three classrooms prior to the call about what Thanksgiving means to each of them. And of course, the kids in Ghana, that's not a holiday for them. The native kids, that's viewed very differently than what the white culture in Alaska, even though they're in the same state, view it, right? And so it was handled by the teachers really well. And so I think that goes into the prepping thing, is thinking through some of those things, but they didn't shy away from talking about it. But the students had some preparation to understand that there's going to be different perceptions and different sides of the story. The other thing I want to kind of do real quickly is break it down a little bit for elementary, because again, Greg is amazing and has done a lot of this with high school students. And I think sometimes elementary students don't think you can do these kinds of things. But I want to go back to pen pals. I know as a teacher, when I first started out, I literally went to the library. Do you remember this? And the library used to have phone books, and I got like phone books from different cities and found addresses to the different schools in different cities, and wrote to any fifth grader in blah blah blah, right? And that's how, and we had this pen pal exchange thing. Well, when you think about it, the virtual technology makes that much easier now. So if you have friends that teach in other places, or even just across town, think of the communication skills and the literacy skills and all of that kind of stuff that you can do, the presentation, skills, if you've got a buddy class somewhere, right? And it doesn't have to be a foreign exchange necessarily. It could be somebody in the same state. It could be somebody in, like fifth graders are studying American history. Maybe, it's somebody in a historical place. But just think of those opportunities to connect to kids, kid to kid, in other places. I think it's so rich and so fun to do. And it takes a little bit of prep on the teacher's part, I would say, to start with. But after that, man, turn the kids loose, and all of a sudden you've got all of this, the sparks are flying.
Kathleen, you just made me want to give a bonus tip. And that is, look, it doesn't have to, and it doesn't have to be an elementary to an elementary or a high school to a high school. We had absolutely fantastic experiences where high school kids connected to an elementary school class. So if any of you teachers out there see this, and you have a friend who teaches high school somewhere, and you're an elementary teacher, or vice versa, or middle school and high school, middle school and elementary, it doesn't matter. If you've got a friend, somebody that contact them if they live somewhere else, and say, hey, let's get our classrooms together. And boy, it's amazing how much leadership your older kids will bring to the younger kids, and how excited your younger kids will be to go, whoa, we get to talk to high schoolers today. That's really
Yeah.
cool. And then
Yeah,
maybe they need to read, maybe they can read something to them or something like that. You know, bring all the different pieces of education into this, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, we've done some of that too. And it's
Yeah.
amazing. Sometimes
Yeah.
the kindergartners show up the middle schoolers on what they know. Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Talk about motivating your middle schoolers to get their stuff together.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's time for our weekly challenge. But before we get too far, I want to shout out to Brian from Florence, Montana. Last week, we said that we were going to have a mountain lion live day. We had 66 classes come in and talk to those experts that are tracking mountain lions. And Brian came to every session and brought over 150 students in virtually. So congratulations, Brian. You did an amazing job of connecting primary source experts to your students, and their questions were amazing. So our challenge this week is to, what, Greg?
Well, it looks like we're having that event tomorrow. We want to sign up for that, and I'm challenging everybody to sign up for that. And also just reach out to somebody or reach out to me if you're interested in meeting another classroom and you're not really sure who to do that to. Reach out to me and I will set you up with another classroom. So that's the challenge. Besides signing up for tomorrow's Golden Eagle event, reach out to another classroom or reach out to me, and we'll get you set up with a group of kids that want to collaborate. Lots of kids. Right. I know I have lots of resources in Montana, lots of resources in Alaska, and I'm starting to get a few resources. I've got a few old friends here who teach in Oregon still. So there's all kinds of opportunities for you to connect with another class.
Great. And just so people know, this week we're having, actually tomorrow, we will be live at MPG Ranch. That's one of our partners, and talking to the researchers out there who are right now this time of year capturing golden eagles and processing them. That sounds awful, but they're weighing them, taking blood, and putting on transmitters so that they can study the migration pathway and the hazards that eagles face as they migrate. And that's February 24th. You can email Greg at inspiredclassroom.com to get signed up for that. It's free. And email him if you miss this and can't join tomorrow. We would love to send you the recorded link to one of the sessions that you can show your students in the class. So feel free to do that. That's Greg at inspiredclassroom.com. Also, let us know if you have any recommendations about topics you'd like to hear about. We were just brainstorming some ideas that we would like to share in innovative practices, or if you'd like to come on and chat about what you're doing in your classroom, that would be awesome. Next week, we will be talking more about how to get students engaged in thinking in different ways. So we'll put out some information about that. Be sure that you subscribe to this channel and follow Inspired Classroom on all the regular social media platforms. You can also schedule a call to discuss any of our products or programs with Greg at inspiredclassroom.com. And also we have a mentor meetup podcast where we interview mentors from all over different walks of life. And it's really fascinating to hear how these people have been mentored along the way, how they mentor others, and what they feel is important for our education system to do as we move into the 21st century and beyond. So subscribe to that Mentor Meetup podcast on any of the podcast platforms. Well, Greg, anything else you've got for us?
Nope, just looking forward to a cool day tomorrow with kids and eagles and professionals and biologists and eagles, and I think it's going to be amazing.
It always is. They are doing such great work out there. Well, thanks everybody, and tune in again next week, next Wednesday at 4 Mountain Time. Thanks. Bye.